With some people are still joining. Can you please mute everybody so that even as they are coming in, is there a way you can change the settings so that some people will not disturb us? It can be very distracting.
Okay, sir.
All right, thank you. Shirley, I think your background is still giving us noise.
Prof. Good morning, Prof. Prof, you can unmute yourself, sir.
Yes, I've done that. Thank you. I think this is better. All right. So we'll just quickly start and then make progress. So our national prayer is, O God of all creation, direct our noble course, guide our leaders right. Help our youth the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow, and living just and true, great lofty heights attain, to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign. Amen. So I want to welcome you to day 3 of our engagement, and I want to appreciate all of you for your patience, even despite how terrible the network was this week. I believe things will improve as time goes on. So I want to also seek if anybody could share with us knowledge gained from the 2 days that we spent with my colleague, Dr. Gabriel Ataguba. Are there specific things that you learned and you wish to share with us? Host, you please permit, once you see anybody's hand, you can permit the person. Or have you made me a co-host? Rep Ongu.
Yes, I agree with you, sir.
Okay, all right. So if you wish to share anything you've gained, please, you could have the floor now. You could signify, I want to see reactions. If there's anything, any comment from day 2, rather not day 3. Day 3 presentation. Anybody want to say anything?
Angu Ongu. Andrew? Angu. H, right? A-double-N.
Okay. Dr. Essien. Dr. Essien, you may share with us briefly. I've asked you to unmute.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Learned a lot in the aspect of environmental impact assessment. Number one thing, we had a robust discussion and we agree on the fact that EIA is site-specific, that EIA for a particular geographical location cannot be used in another geographical location, irrespective of the distance or the closeness. We also learned the procedures that if EIA, a certain company did not actually carry out EIA, then the start of a project that the host community, they have the right to call them to order by contacting the regulatory agencies like NESTRA. And we also learned that there's a penalty for it, that if you carry out a project that required EIA and that was not done, that there's a certain fine that the company can pay. I also learned that we can also at that point call for a review of the EIA if the host community felt it was not properly done. Those are the few things that I learned. I know it's much, but I'll also give other people opportunity to talk. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one. Thank you for that contribution, or for that point that you raised. They are very, very valid points. You cannot use the EIA for one particular location for another location. Fortunately, most consultants, they do that. They just go online to the bank and then download and edit, which is ethically wrong, as we are going to see in the course of the lecture. So, well, permit me if I don't call it well, but let me pronounce the shortest one in your name, Yev. Yev, please, can you share with us?
Okay. Good morning, Doc. Good morning, classmates.
Thank you.
I learned in the course of the presentation, I learned that with the principle of environmental sustainability, it's good to leave people more than the way you met them, rather than causing them more harm in terms of project execution. And that even as much as projects are going to have economic impact, you should also be put into consideration the environment, the safetiness of the environment, as well as, for instance, if you are executing a project around a water body, it's not just enough to ensure the safetiness. Those people maybe had occupation regarding the water body in terms of fishing and other activity. So
Yes.
displacing them will cost them so much, and measures should be put in place. What happened to them after displacement? Not just settling them. What happened to their occupation? It should also be put into consideration. And also, we also learned that the safetiness of the people and the environment for any project. In fact, even as much as the project may be economical, impactful, it should also have the long-term effect. The long-term effect in the sense that not just looking at empowering them economical, okay, their health, okay, what happened after environmental, maybe like a disaster, okay, all of these things should be put in place. Because I learned this personally, because before now I thought it was all about a particular development that coming to the community, but now I know that it's not just about the development that comes. What happened after the development, the benefit and the positive and the negative effect. Do the negative effect outweigh the positive? If that's the case, then the project should not even be executed in such a community. With so many other things that I learned. In fact, I'm so happy I'm part of this class. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I'll take two more and then we'll move straight to the business for today. Jessica, you have the floor. Walawa, please bring down your hand. Jessica, you may share with us. Okay.
Hello, good morning, San. Good morning, everyone.
Good
So I've
morning.
learned that EIA has it's not every project that requires EIA, and EIA
Yes.
has different categories. You have the moderate, you have the high risk, you have the medium risk, and then the low risk. So projects that don't require EIA are the ones that are low risk. Medium projects require the ESMP, and then the high risk requires EIA. So I've learned that, which has stuck to my head, and so many other things. I appreciate
Oh,
all. Thank you.
thank you so much for that contribution. We appreciate that. And in the course of the lecture, we are going to learn more. I believe based on some of the information I got from the rep, a lot of you also have the environmental background already. Some of you are working in the sector that are directly doing environmental impact assessment already. But in the course of the lecture, I'll also be requesting of some of you, especially those of you that have field experience, you may wish to share with us some of the experience that you've had in the field, so that we have a robust discussion in the course of this lecture. Somebody was raising the hand. I'm not very sure. Jessica, you may bring down your hand so that I take just one more, if there's any, and then we move on. Yes, Omojo, you may speak.
Okay.
Yes. Having network problem? Yeah. Have the floor. So do.
Okay.
Mm.
EIA does not just capture the environment, it also looks at the psychological and cultural aspects that the project will affect the people living in that community. And it takes to note that whatsoever is being done, we should leave resources that the future generations would be able to still make use of and not deplete the environment totally. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much for that. All right, all of you have contributed beautifully, and it also shows that while the lecture was going on, we are also listening and imbibing some of the points that were raised in the course of the lectures, and that's a good one. That's encouraging to whoever is the facilitator. So I believe as we also move on today, you will also take points that you'll be able to share with us tomorrow. At the end of the afternoon session today, we are going to have an assignment. I don't know, class rep, I'd like you to respond to this. Did my colleague, I couldn't communicate with him before the lecture. Was he able to have a class work with you,
Not yet.
a group work?
No, sir.
Okay, it's all right. No problem. I know he had a lot of issues with network, but part of it, we are going to have a group work today after the afternoon session, and it's going to be like this. Each and every one, I'm going to drop a question. I may categorize it into group 1 and 2. The class rep will post the group just for this class alone. And then you are going to make individual response through the link I'm going to send to you. I will off the link by 9 o'clock tomorrow. So once you didn't make any response online through that link before 9 tomorrow, that is loss of it is between 5 to 10 marks, which will form part of your continuous assessment too. So you are going to make is something simple that you can make a response to. So then tomorrow in the morning before we start, each of the group, you just select one person or so, you speak to the points that were mentioned. You can decide to present it in the PowerPoint form, or you can just speak to it. That will take place at least within the first 15 minutes of our engagement tomorrow before we start the morning session tomorrow. So after, in the afternoon, two things. You are going to have the groupings, and then I'm going to send a link for where you are going to answer the assignment that will be posted for you today. And tomorrow we'll take the last two part of the lecture, the morning and the afternoon session, so that in the afternoon session we could round up with part of the theoretical aspect. Then on Friday in the morning, we are going to have a robust group discussion. I'm going to drop a link to a video which you are going to watch. The video is going to describe what happens when you don't carry out stakeholder engagement in the course of project design and implementation. And when you don't pay attention to environmental risks, those are those things that could happen when such things are not being taken into consideration. And it forms the core part of what we are discussing in environmental impact assessment. So we'll talk about that from the perspective. Questions are going to be set for each group too, and we'll have a robust discussion in order to drive the message we are trying to preach all through this week down based on what you are going to see in that short clip. So, wishing you success as we do that. Then the afternoon session, we have the option of either taking a short test, a test to be taken in that afternoon session, or we defer it to maybe in the evening or on Saturday, depending on the poll. I'm going to allow your rep to drop a poll. It's either you take it that afternoon, the evening, or Friday, or on Saturday at any time. Whichever time you choose, please communicate me. I'll send the link to you, and then you do the test. It's online. It's cheap, and then we'll be done with ENS 805, pending when the exam will come up. Thank you. So permit me to upload the material for today as we commence in earnest. Let me upload my slide. All right. Class rep, can you see my slide? Class rep, I'll need your feedback.
Yes, we can see your slides.
Thank you. All right. All right. So let's make progress. So, like my colleague started, is ENS 805 Environmental Impact Assessment. If you notice, the social is not included. Well, that's how the course is designed, but that doesn't mean we are not going to touch the social component. This was how it was at the beginning, but now the social component have been introduced into the environment. It also has a, sorry, somebody is trying to call me. It also affects the way of life of the people. And we've gone through the outline. We'll be starting with EIA process in Nigeria. Let me tell this person not to call. Please, class rep, unmute me soon. So we went through the context in the last class, and we also defined what environment is all about. Please take note of this definition. And then the components of the environment went further to discuss the role of the environment, and we also went further to discuss the nexus between economic development and environmental degradation we came to discover that most development comes at a cost to our environment. And we further discussed the fact that when you have a rapidly growing economy, it can bring about loss of biodiversity, erosion, rapid population growth, climate change could come, and then pollution as a result of anthropogenic activities in the course of carrying out developmental activities. And these are some of the environmental impact that we observe: air quality reduction, noise, water quality reduction, and so on and so forth. And then we went further to also look at global recognition of that nexus between the environment and economic development. So further, we talk about the Rio Declaration. The last set, they were told to at least mention at least two of them, although usually before the exam, you also be given some area of concentration. We'll try to look into that also in the course of our discussion at the examiner's level before your exams, and get you communicated adequately. So it's usually not usually profit, profit, profit. But the World Bank approach is profit the people as well as the planet, and look at their strategy and what the World Bank will also do. And these are some of the tools that are being used for environmental and social assessment. The Environmental and Social Impact Assessment, ESMP, which is also part of the Environmental and Social Impact Assessment. We also have the Strategic Environmental and Social Assessment. All these, okay, down to Resettlement Action Plan, Pest Management Plan, are part of the tools that the World Bank usually use in order to carry out environment and social assessment. We also went further to talk about the ESS. There are about 10 of them. I believe he discussed that in details with you. We look at the key theoretical foundations for environmental impact assessment. And from there, we look at the DPSIR concept, looking at the responses, the impact, the state, the pressure, and then the driving forces. That was also discussed in details too, looking at each of the components. Then the emergence of EIA, looking at it from the global perspective, only to discover that in the 1960s, as industrial, in the US, another industrial country found out that pollution became a serious issue. And when you have a situation whereby visibility is poor in some major cities like like New York, and in fact, if you go to some part of China today, you'll find out that visibility is still poor, and some other countries, especially places where they don't take into consideration environmental pollution as a major issue. So when all this start happening, attention starts shifting to the need to pay close attention to the environment. We went further to discuss introduction to EIA, and we discuss the various definitions from the legal point of view, and as well as how other people define environmental impact assessment. There are a series of them. This is how the World Bank define it as the environmental. It's an instrument used to identify and assess the potential environmental and social of a proposed project, and evaluate alternatives and design appropriate mitigation, management, and monitoring measures according to the World Bank. And have series of them. Went further to talk about impact. From there, look at the tools for identifying impacts, and then global acceptance of EIA, and so on and so forth. Sorry, I'm just trying to run through it. Main advantages, and we ended up that in the afternoon session. You looked at environmental and social risks as well as the impact. Further went into that. And I remember someone was talking about how the World Bank classifies all projects into into the four classification listed below. We have the high risks, the substantial risks, the moderate risks, then the low risks. And each of them were defined in details. And this is like a summary table to show that those with high risks, we are going to see some examples today. And those ones, you need a full EIA or ESIA. Those with substantial risks as well, full EIA. And those with moderate risks, you need the ESMP. And those with the low risk neither need the ESIA or the ESMP for it. What ESMP entails, we are going to look at it. I think that should be in the lecture we are going to have tomorrow. We talked about all this in details yesterday, and we ended. So today, we are going to look at environmental impact assessment in Nigeria, EIA in Nigeria. EIA in Nigeria. Just a minute. Okay. So we're going to briefly look at the historical background to EIA in Nigeria. And so that environmental consciousness in Nigeria came to be following the cocoa toxic dump in the then Belde state in now what we call Delta State in 1988. This cocoa is a small part of the then Belde State and is located in this Niger Delta region in southern Nigeria. The place is they primarily carry out agriculture and fishing activities. Some of them are traders as well too, before this cocoa dump incidents came to be. If you look at that picture at the side, they're not very clear, it's black and white. It's pictures taken in the 80s. So it's a bit blurry. But you can see those toxic materials that were dumped then. And it was dumped by an Italian businessman, one Gianfranco Raffaelli. This man, he illegally imported hazardous industrial waste into Nigeria and dumped them in this community, deceiving the people that they were fertilizers or harmless chemicals, according to what we got to read in the news. Thousands of barrels, containers, and sacks of chemicals were left in this town, and the people didn't even know anything about it. They just felt it's something good that was coming, but these are toxic waste, industrial waste that are supposed to have been dumped in Italy, but shipped into Nigeria. And because Nigeria never had any laws as at that time guiding the environment, this thing successfully came into Nigeria and they dumped it in Delta State there. The waste contained dangerous chemicals. In fact, polychlorinated phenyls there, solvent asbestos, there are dioxin resins. These things are not even meant to be dumped in the oceans. Some of them are even radioactive materials, substances that are harmful to human, animals, and the environment. And many locals, because they didn't know now, they start drinking water from places where they leach it. we are entering inside the well and even inside some of the flowing water there. And the immediate impact includes health problems among the residents. And it includes headache. Some of them start having headache, nausea, to serious problems that were reported. So some professionals involved in the cleanup effort, they came there in order to remove them. Some of them that are even wearing those gears, those white gears they are wearing there. Some of them, as they came themselves, they experienced chemical burn and serious symptoms despite wearing those protective gear. And because Nigerians at that time were unaware of the dangers of such waste, because we didn't have industries that produce such terrible waste, they were exposed without them knowing. Eventually, the Nigerian government under General Ibrahim Babangida got involved. And after students in Italy, in fact, it became an international issue. Some of the Nigerian students that are studying in Italy and then our press also got involved. And they forced the government of Nigeria and the government of Italy also into action. So some of the initial government and international response were the Nigerian government seized the ship and the container involved. And using the international diplomatic channels, the waste were returned to Italy, back to Italy. That's one of the good things with military government. And one of the first major cases of country, it's one of the first major cases whereby a country will want to push back against some of this oppression that comes from this part of the world. It became something that attracted international attention. It was all over the news then. I remember back then, even when I was a small boy by then, I kept hearing in the news about the cocoa dump and how it led to death, how it led to a whole lot of problem uh, in Delta State back then. So as a result of that, before that 1998, Nigeria did not have a robust environmental law or a strong national agency dedicated to environmental protection. But after this cocoa disaster, the Federal Environmental Protection Agency was empowered and became more active in environmental regulation. So it brought about the creation of that FEPA by Decree 58 in 1988 and then amended by Decree 59 in 1992. That was during the Babangida administration. So production of several sectorial and procedural guidelines on how to carry out EIA in Nigeria also follows suit. So the Federal Environmental Protection absorbed by the Federal Ministry of Environment. States were also encouraged to establish their own environmental protection agency under that Decree 59 of 1992. So sometimes some things happen in order to drive changes. It's just that this one was a very unfortunate one. And that incident raised public awareness across Nigeria and inspired communities, activists, civil society groups to demand better governance from the people that are leading the nation. And they put pressure on government to enforce the environmental standard and to treat environmental pollution as serious national issue, which is a good thing. And that is what brought the attention of Nigerian government into environmental matters in Nigeria. So the EIA Decree 86 of 1992 made EIA a legal requirement by all developers of projects. And the Department of Petroleum Regulation, DPR, have their environmental guidelines and standards. 1991, it provides for mandatory EIA in the petroleum industry. Then we also have the Town and Country Planning Decree of 1998 Decree 88 of 1992 also made EIA a requirement in estate and property development. You can see the trend. That brought attention to the environment. Now EIA decree came in. Also, the petroleum sector have to come up with their own. And then the government also saw the need to also bring in the town and country planning decree as well too. Because these are military government, those are decrees. So the institutionalization of EIA in Nigeria, a number of incidents gave rise to the institutionalization of EIA in Nigeria, the creation of a division of urban development and environment with the Federal Ministry of Economic Development, that is 1975, which was the driving force of what came out of the Stockholm Conference. Remember, Dr. Ataguba talked about that, I think on the first day or so. Then the Nairobi conference as well too. So those two conferences addresses the connection between development and the environment. And in 1998, a bill of the creation of the Federal Environmental Production Agency came into the House of Representatives. And in 1988, the Federal Environmental Act was promulgated as a pedestal of the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, following the toxic waste from Italy. The creation of the Federal Ministry of Environment in 1998, and also which also absorbed the Federal Environmental Protection Agency. FEPA embarked on achieving its mandate by doing the following. They were involved in construction of physical structures, staff recruitment, capacity building, establishment of standards and regulation, as well as issuance of guidelines, codes of practice to assist stakeholders in the conduct of EIA, procedural guidelines, as well as sectorial guidelines in major sectors of the economy. One good thing about Nigeria is that whenever we want to work, we'll do it very well. But most times it is the implementation. We have laws, sectorial laws, which we are going to discover later, that guides how we carry out developmental activities in the oil sector, in town and country planning sector, in the mining sector, and in almost all sectors. And they have specific guidelines on how to carry out these developmental activities without jeopardizing the environment or without damaging the environment significantly or the way of life of the people. But most times, implementation have been a problem within the country, as we'll get to discover in the course of the lecture. So the Federal Ministry of Environment was created in 1999 by President Olusegun Obasanjo to address Nigerians' environmental problem historically. Those are part of his legacy. The primary mandate of the ministry is also to achieve environmental objectives as enunciated in Section 20 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The Environmental Assessment Department under the Federal Ministry of Environment is one of the technical departments of that ministry. And EIA is proclaimed by the Principle 17 Agenda 21 in June 1992, which state that EIA as a national instrument shall be undertaken for proposed activities that are likely to have significant adverse impact on the environment and subject to decision of a competent authority. Yes, the competent authority as set up by the federal government of Nigeria is the Federal Ministry of Environment, and through their Department of Environmental Assessment, they carry out EIA reviews, as well as works that concerns the EIA efforts in Nigeria. So in Nigeria, the regulatory framework for EIA is the EIA Act of 86 of 1992. So in the multiple choice questions that will be given to you in the test, this particular question may come out that the regulatory framework of EIA in Nigeria, which of the act and of which year? Okay, since it's multiple choice, I believe you should be able to get that. It is the law that governs EIA practice in Nigeria and was adopted in 1992. It is the main legal document explaining the system and principles of EIA in Nigeria. It has 3 goals and 17 principles. So the principles of environmental protection are found in express provision of the Constitution, articulated in terms of the obligation to its citizens to safeguard national environment. So many provisions have been enacted by the FEPA Act to protect environment from various human activities, including industrial activities. Industrial activities is one of the activities that damage the environment, that cause a whole lot of problem to the environment. Looking at oil exploration, for some of us that are in Benue State, when Benue State Cement was producing, I don't know whether they are producing today, as long as past there, then you get to find out that those living around the cement factory, you see a whole lot of dust, particulate matters coming from the factory, dropping on the plant. The plant are looking badly in terms of the leaf color, and then human beings around there. You know, cement itself is carcinogenic in nature. If you inhale a lot of it, cancer cells can begin to develop within your body. But people there are just exposed to it like that. And there's no way, they keep flaring that in all the time. And nobody says anything about that. And I don't know, maybe if you know, you may share with us later whether there are mitigation measures.
Okay, I think our organ network kicked him out. So I guess he will join us back soon.
I think he will soon be back with us. Let me even check whether he's already back. Okay, he's not yet back, so let us give him a second for him. Okay, he's back. Doc is back.
Okay, Doc, you are in power, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, my network, I got thrown out again, but I'm back. Thank you. All right. So for the legal agencies of EIA Nigeria, the lead agency is the Federal Ministry of Environment. That is the competent authority through its Environmental Assessment Department, just as we have established before now. And then for the petroleum sector, it is the DPR, the Department of Petroleum Resources, an arm of the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. Take note of that. And for states and local government also, we are empowered by that decree also to also set up their own environmental protection agencies. So in practice, most EIA are prepared pursuant to Federal Ministry of Environment or the Department of Petroleum Resources guidelines. I would like you to take note of that. So most times when you are working and your activity, your project has to do with petroleum resources, DPR is the one that will require of you to bring an EIA. And if your other sectors are involved, like the forestry, if it has to do with reforestation or afforestation and the rest, you may have to do an EIA and any other projects, as we are going to discover soon, may need to do an EIA to the Federal Ministry of Environment. So the EIA process in Nigeria is guided by the EIA procedural guideline, which are prepared under the EIA Act 86 of 1992. It indicates the step to be followed from project conception, the design, to commissioning, and highlight various stages in which the EIA procedure, as well as actors in each stage, should carry out their activities. So the EIA Act gave the Federal Ministry of Environment the implementing mandate and requires that the process of the EIA be mandatorily applied in all major development projects. This particular act also stipulates that all agencies and institutions shall apply in writing to the Federal Ministry of Environment to allow for conduct of environmental assessment. So any EIA that is carried out outside the approval of these two bodies that we just mentioned, you are just joking. It is them that gives the implementing mandate, the approval. As a matter of fact, for you to give a credible EIA, you need to be accredited. You need to pass through the accreditation of the Federal Ministry of Environment. I could remember some years past, I was also part of a team in a company that a friend of mine set up, and we want to also be consultant under the Federal Ministry of Environment to carry out afforestation effort in the northern part of Nigeria. In order for us to write an EIA or to to be engaged in writing EIA that will be acceptable by the Federal Ministry of Environment, we need to pass through their rigorous accreditation process. And I could remember some of the drama that took place then. But the good thing is that at the end of the day, we got the accreditation to do afforestation, reforestation in some parts of northern Nigeria. So the Act made provision for all stakeholders, agencies, public, experts, NGO communities to make comments on the EIA of a project prior to the approval. And this has to do with stakeholders engagement, which is part of what the World Bank hold to in high regards. In fact, ESS 10, just as we discussed a day ago, has to do with that aspect, stakeholder engagement, very important part of the environmental impact assessment. So the objective of the Act, the EIA Act, part of the objective is to establish the undertaking of any activity that may likely or to be a significant extent affect the environment and have environmental effect on those activities that shall first be taken into account, and also to promote the implementation of appropriate policy in all federal lands, however they are acquired, states, local government, and so on, and to encourage the development of procedures for information exchange, notification, and consultation between organs and persons when proposed activities are likely to have significant environmental effect on the boundary or transstate or the environment of bordering towns and villages. So the EIA Act covers how the Federal Ministry of Environment is now reversed as EIA Act of 2004, how they carry out environmental impact assessment. So Article 5 of the law states that the environmental effects is an environment, sorry, let me take that again. While we are considering the degree of environmental significance and mandatory activities that should be carried out. See, the Article 5 of the law states that environmental effects in an environmental assessment shall be assessed with a degree of detail commensurate with their likely environmental significance. Before now, that was yesterday, my colleague described to you how the World Bank look at projects, and they look at it based on the risk level. The high risk one, say, which requires full environmental impact assessment, substantial one, full one. The moderate one, you need just the ESMP, environmental and social management plan. The low risk one, you don't require any of them. But based on this Article 5 of the EIA law, the Federal Ministry of Environment and categorize mandatory study activities into these three categories. Sometimes you hear some people talk about it as category 1, category 2, category 2 and category 3. Some will say category A project, category B project, and category C project. Virtually, they are in semantics, they are the same. So for category A project, say we to require full EIA. Category B project will require only partial EIA. Whenever I hear that partial EIA, they're talking on what the EMP or the ESMP. And then the category T project are considered to have essential beneficial impact, especially when you are carrying out health activities like immunization or carrying out things like COVID-19 vaccine distribution. Such projects may not need to carry out an EIA on them. We are going to discover most of them as we go on in the course of the lecture this morning. So Article 13 also states that an environmental impact assessment is required whenever the federal, state, or local government agency authority is a proponent of the project, makes or authorized payment or provide guarantee for a loan or any other form of financial assistance to the proponent of the project, disposes of land or any test in those land, or to enable the project to be carried out. When also the federal, state, or local government approve or take any other action to enable the projects to be carried out, it becomes like something that is mandatory for any projects that have a federal, state, or local government identity. So, cases where environment assessment is required, we want to continue that. And Article 2, restriction on public and private projects without prior consideration to environmental impact. 1, the public or private sector shall not undertake or embark on or authorized projects activities without prior consideration of their environmental effect. Experience have shown that when the environmental effects are neglected, a whole lot goes wrong in a situation whereby you are bringing in developmental project to help a people. At the end of the day, the people are not happy. They rather want to fight the project or sabotage the good things that the project is supposed to bring, or even the process of executing the project. You see that the locals, instead of them owning the project, they are the one fighting it at the end of the day. Some will even get there to vandalize things. Sometimes it's out of annoyance. And because environmental and social uh, aspect of the project we are not taking into impact of the project are not taken into consideration. And where the extent, nature, or location of a proposed project or activity is such that it is likely to significantly affect the environment, its environmental impact assessment shall be undertaken under the provision of this Act. The criterion and procedure shall be used to determine whether an activity is likely to significantly affect the environment, and it is therefore subject to an environmental impact assessment. Part of what we are going to look into briefly. All agencies and institutions, whether public, private, shall, before embarking on the proposed project, apply in writing to the agency so that their activities be identified and environmental assessment applied as the activities are being planned. So before the commencement of a project, it is important that an EIA is also conducted. So an environmental impact assessment shall not be required where the project is in the list of projects where the environmental effects of the project are likely to be minimal. So projects in this category fall under the category 3 or the category C projects, as we are going to look into very soon. The project to be carried out in this instance is carried out during a national emergency for which temporary measures have been taken by the government. I told you about the COVID-19 vaccine. Is it when people are dying, you now want to carry out ESIA at that point? Everybody will die before you finish reviewing the document and everything. So for such project, you don't need an EIA for it. If a project is also carried out in response to circumstance that the project is in the interest of public health and safety, yes, Ebola control, COVID-19 control, and so on, immunization against polio and the rest, you don't need an EIA or an ESIA in that regard. So Article 62 also further says that any person who fails, you listen to this now, for penalties, say any person who fails to comply with the provision of this decree shall be guilty of an offense under this decree, and on conviction, that is by the court, in the case of an individual, that individual pays 100,000 naira, that is back then, which amount to $263. 100,000 naira now, if you convert it to dollar, I believe it will be a miserable amount other than this. Or 5 years imprisonment. So you can see that these things they have penalties. And in the case of a firm, if it is an organization, the firm will pay no less than 50,000 naira, and which amount to 132 US dollar, and not more than 1 million naira, which is equivalent to 2,630 US dollars. That was back then. But I believe the whole thing would have been upgraded by now. Maybe if you have information, if you're one of those related to the Federal Ministry of Environment, you can give us an update on that. So we are going to look at the categories of projects and how ESIA, ESMP is being applied. Like I said, some people call it category 1, category 2, category 3, others will call it category A, category B, or category C project. Don't get confused by that. Those ones that are category A project, say they have adverse, we are looking at it from the Nigerian context now, as categorized by the Federal Ministry of Environment. Those ones that cause adverse environmental impact, that are sensitive, they are diverse in nature, unprecedented, and which may affect an area border that is more than the sites or facilities subject to the physical work. That is, you are going to carry out road construction work. But as a result of your road construction work, you are going to cause erosion somewhere else that can lead even to gully erosion, that can lead to displacement of people, a whole lot of things. You are carrying that, you are building dam. You are going to build dam for electricity or for agricultural purpose. But as a result of carrying out that work, it will lead to the displacement of people that are even in local governments that are along, or areas that are along the new path that you want to channel the water through. That has a significant adverse impact on the environment and also on the way of life of the people. They are sensitive, they are diverse. These are unprecedented. There are things people there are not used to, and they affect a wide border of site. For such projects, you put them as category 1. So for the category 2, they have potential adverse impact on the environment. They are less adverse than the category A projects, and the impacts are usually site-specific. It's localized within where you are working, making it to be easily managed. The impacts are also few, and most of them you can actually reverse or mitigate them easily. Then while the category 3 project or C are those ones with minimal or no adverse environmental impact, and you may not even go beyond screening. Screening is a process in the AIA process, which we are going to get into tomorrow. So this list is important. I want you to take note of them because every year, because it forms the core part of your practice. You can't pass through the Department of Environmental Sustainability doing EIA and then you don't have that capacity to, at a glance, have an idea that this project should be a category A project or a category B project or a category C project. You should be able to do that. And so I'd like you to take note of some of these examples that are given and even many more, okay, that you are going to come across or that you are going to do in the course of your assessment. So usually, I'm not saying these are written in ink that once a project falls under this, you must categorize them as category A project. First of all, you need to carry out the screening process, the scoping process. We'll get into that when we get into the procedures for EIA. But most times, dam and reservoirs, ports, forestry, land management project, industries, you want to cite an industry, resettlement of people, irrigation and drainage, not small one, no. Watershed management, terracing, hydroelectric power or thermal plant and thermal power plant, mineral exploration, pesticide and toxic chemical, the production as well as the transport. Those ones have significant environmental and social impact and are sensitive, diverse, and unprecedented. The area of reach can be more than the site of the project. So for those ones, you categorize them as the category A project or category 1 project. From the World Bank perspective, these ones, they have high to substantial risks. Okay, so a full EIA will need to be carried out for this particular type of environment. So you need to preparation before they will require a full EIA. You also need to disclose the EIA report before the project appraiser at specific locations at World Bank Information Shop and also at the national sites as well, to location, specific location that is accessible to the communities, to NGO, and all any other people that are linked to the project, all the stakeholders. And if you are going to carry out the work in TIV land, a copy of the report that you're pasting should also be in TIFF language. And if you are going to paste it, do carry out the work in an Igala community, it has to be in Igala language. If it is Nupe community, it has to be in Nupe language too. So these are some of the specific requirements when disclosing an EIS. That is the report of your environmental impact assessment. For category 2 projects, these are projects that have potential adverse environmental impact, but less than that of category A. Say that they are site specific, they are mostly reversible. You can actually carry out mitigation measures. And for these ones, you need to carry out the environmental and social management plan. And when you remove the social, it is environmental management plan, the EMP. So for this one, some of the examples are the small agro-allied company, the rural electrification, the transmission lines, tourism, aquaculture, that's fisheries, drinking and water sanitation in rural areas. When you want to site boreholes, the type most of our politicians they carry out, those ones you need an EMP, management and restoration of watersheds, construction of schools and healthcare centers. Then projects involving rehabilitation. Now take note of this. It may be a major project, but when you are carrying out the rehabilitation, like if you want to build new facilities, let's say a new factory, you may need a full EIA. But when you are carrying out a rehabilitation of that factory, after some time, you may do just an ESMP in that instance. So most rehabilitation projects that fall under the category B or category 2 projects. When you are carrying out maintenance and upgrading, they fall under the category 2 projects too. So what you do here mainly is just the brief description of the project, the safeguard analysis and the justification, the technical alternatives. You provide it. I'll tell you the reason why you need to do that later. Analysis of environmental and social impact. This place you do it a lot. First of all, you also need to provide the baseline, okay? You provide the funders with the baseline. That is, before coming to establish the project, how was this place look before? What are the kind of activities this locality, people in this locality, they carry out? Is the place a rainforest? Is this fishery that is their main activities? What is the soil profile like? What is the fauna of that place like? What is the floral composition of that place like? And so on and so forth. What is the humidity? You need to carry out report on a whole lot of, analyze a whole lot of environmental and social features of that place. And then how much of change is your project going to introduce? And if your project is going to bring in this amount of change, what are the mitigation measures? How can you come in? What can you do to minimize? In fact, first of all, there is a hierarchy for it. How can you avoid completely? And if you cannot avoid, how do you minimize it? If you cannot minimize it, how do you compensate for this? So those are some of the things you are going to put down in your environmental and social management plan. And this will further give the bank or any of the funder enough information to take the decision whether to put their money there or not. One thing I want you to also understand is that one thing the World Bank doesn't like is to be engaged in litigation. If you check very well, you hardly find the World Bank going to court with a particular community or with a particular set of people in order to drag an issue. And that is why they put out this tool, the EMP, the EIA, and all these other ones that were mentioned later, the settlement plan, the pesticide management plan, and so on. Those are tools which they use to help them to take decisions. So if you are going to carry out an activity, you need to break it down. What are those impacts? What are the risks involved? And what are the steps as the proponent of the project? What are the steps taken that will be taken in order to minimize? So at the end of the day, there are professionals. You get to see that there's also what we call the review process. There are professionals that will also review it and tell you that, hey, you are carrying out this project, you are forgetting this aspect, include it. And these are the things you're going to do. No, this mitigation measure, you say, it's not enough. From experience, this is what is usually obtainable. If you do it this way, you are going to still go into problem. Professionals are going to come in the Department of Environmental Assessment, Federal Ministry of Environment. They will come in and do a thorough review. They involve sometimes professionals from those, if it is a project that has to do with afforestation. I remember some time back our M&E coordinator in IPES, Professor Shonke. He is also involved in review of EIA. Okay, there are major projects that are being carried out. They'll send the EIS to him to review, and then he's going to impute, because of review, he's going to impute his based on his professional experience. Tell them that no, if you are doing this, this is what you need to do, or you are avoiding this, you are excluding this, include it, like that. So that at the end of the day, the EIS come out as a robust document that covers all the risks, the impact of the project, as well as the mitigation measures, and it will help the World Bank or whoever is funding that project to take informed decision. There are some that if the impact becomes so much, they may not want to, and then what you are proposing as mitigation measure, if it is not satisfactory, such project will be turned down. Because like I said, the World Bank doesn't like litigations. Don't want situation whereby you drag them into court cases. So you find out that most times they settle those things outside the court than taking them to court. And to avoid that, they want to do their due diligence to ensure that they leave no stone unturned. And that is how everybody is supposed to look at project. For some of you that have been to Benue State lately, I understand you come from different parts of the country within the North Central Zone where this project covers. But if you have been to Benue State, where we usually have uh, 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 food basket symbol there, there's a construction going on there. Good and fine, early in the morning, the contractor comes there, he waters that place, at least to reduce particulate matters, that's dust, that will be coming up. But if you look at another project carried out by the state government within the town, you find out that that is not being adhered to at all. They leave dust flying, and people in the market, people living around that place, they are under intense impact of the dust. And those dust, they are carrying disease-causing materials. Some of them can even be stuff that you shouldn't inhale as human being at all. If it is a place where laws are being enforced, such contractors are supposed to be, they can be sued. And when they are sued, depending on the number of ailments that come, or people that are sued, or cases being identified, they could pay money in millions. But sometimes that is the beauty of this part of the country that we come from. So it helps The EMP is the tool that we use for this category of projects. And report and receive stakeholder involvement engagement is very important in this phase two. So for the category C project, the project have minimal or no adverse, as we said before, and some of them are education, institutional strengthening, family planning, health, human resources, nutrition, capacity, school feeding. This school feeding project that the past administration was doing in the north or in some other places, those ones you don't need EIA for it. Capacity building, okay, like the one we are doing here now. You want to have a workshop, then you are writing. Yeah, no, you don't need EIA for all those ones. So those are category B, category C project. I also want you to take note of this. I brought it as one of the questions in the last exam. There is also the possibility for reclassification of projects. Like I said, a project that started as a category B project can further be reclassified as a category A project. And there are triggers for it. So it's not that when you see a rehabilitation project, automatically it becomes category B and that is how it's going to be all through. No, there is possibility for it to become a category A project once there is a review. So during project design update, detailed site investigation or stakeholder consultation, that project that you did your screening and classified it as category B project, new findings may emerge. And example of such triggers may include the discovery of critical habitat or sensitive ecosystem. You just discover that the road construction you are going to do is passing through a place whereby you have an ancient artifact, something that people is something of tourism attraction, okay, or something, or an evil forest, something revered by the people. Your road is passing through that place. You cannot just proceed like that. It's either you get the alternative, okay, to passing the road through that place, and if you must pass through that place, you have to upgrade the project immediately and do a full EIA. Yes, World Bank will not give you money for that. Then, if the footprint of the project increases, the footprint in this instance that is the area to which the project is going to touch. Before you say you are going to touch just the North Bank area of Makurdi, but in the course of the work of the project, discover that it's just not North Bank. It's going to touch Agan. It's going to touch other neighboring communities around. As such, you find out that it's no longer localized. It's going beyond the borders of your intended project. For such, you have to scale it up immediately to a category A project. And when you need to move people, that one immediately it triggers category A project. And when there is potential or cumulative or transboundary impact of the project, which were not envisaged at the process of design, later on, such projects can be scaled up to a category A project. So reclassification is not only possible, but also an essential part of adaptive environmental governance to ensure that safeguards match the actual scale and risks of a project. So these are some examples, like what happened in Nigeria Erosion and Watershed Management Project. This project was a World Bank supported project launched by the federal government of Nigeria to address several godly erosion and land degradation across states. So the initial categorization was category B because their impact was considered to be site-specific, reversible. They include limited civil work like check dam, vegetation cover, and channelization. They were expected to have minimal or manageable environmental and social risks. But along the line, it was reclassified to Category A because some of the project sites, like the one in Achara erosion site in Abia, Ikoto Ekpene, in Akwa Ibom, whatever, there, we are found to involve large-scale displacement of people and property, significant impact on biodiversity. You know, one of the ESS that we discussed, I think that was the first day or so, environment and social, 10 of them, we talk about biodiversity protection as well as cultural heritage protection as well too. So immediately anything touches biodiversity, the cultural heritage, it touches human health, and it triggers those ESS immediately. And as such, you need to pay attention to those impacts of the project. So, and part of that triggers the reclassification of that project to Category A. There are also complex issues such as land acquisition, compensation, livelihood restoration, and also the potential cumulative downstream impact of that project. It made it to go from Category B to Category A. So take note of that reclassification is possible in the course, either when the project has even started or while you are carrying out your stakeholder engagement, you just discover some things and you say, boy, this thing is not just Category B, it has to be moved to Category A. So as a consultant, which as we are going to discuss later, obviously we want a situation whereby most of you, as after your master's in environmental sustainability, you should make effort to go on to become a consultant. There's money in it. For you to write a credible, a robust EIA, which is not very difficult. The people that are doing it in the field, they don't have two heads than you. You have what it takes. And then with your certificate in environmental sustainability, masters in environmental sustainability, it gives you an edge over a lot of them. And then you have to also register your company. When you register your company and you get accredited by the Federal Ministry of Environment, you can come up with a good EIA and earn a lot of money in millions. EIAs are usually in millions because it involves a whole lot of activities which we are going to discover in the course of this. So as a result, the World Bank and the Federal Ministry of Environment reclassify those sub-projects to Category A. Yeah, and as such, they require full EIA, resettlement action plans. So these are tools that are going to use the EIA and then the resettlement action plan, and then the broad-based stakeholder engagement and public disclosure that are going to be placed in strategic place in the World Bank info shop, as well as in the local language of the people of that area. That is in Igbo language now, based on the location of that project. So the key lesson here is that the initial screening is part of the EIA process. It's not final. As project design evolves, deeper environmental and social issues emerge, especially during your stakeholder consultation or when you do your site visit. Robust environmental governance, they allow for such adaptive reclassification to protect communities and the ecosystem. So we'll quickly look at the legal framework of EIA in Nigeria. Sorry. Okay. So I think I've mentioned part of this before. You can just read it up, what FEPA does, and that the administrative arrangement is such that the Federal Ministry of Environment has the overall responsibility to administer and enforce the provision related to EIA. Various other government supervising and approving agencies will assist by ensuring the prescribed activities undergo EIA prior to approval and implementation. These agencies should be operating at either federal, state, or local levels. So the role of the EIA division, like we said, in the Federal Ministry of Environment, there is a department that is involved in environmental assessment issues. One of our students is carrying out her industrial attachment. You know, after your second semester exam, you'll be posted for IT, and she opted to go to the Federal Ministry of Environment at Abuja. And she thought she was going to work in the main office somewhere in town there. But she was posted to the EIA department, the Environmental Assessment Department, just as we are teaching here. And then she got the experience of having to visit, okay, some sites, okay, to do the screening exercise, to do stakeholder engagement, and also to carry out reviews of EIS as they are submitted to the Federal Ministry of Environment. So whenever EIA issue comes, they move it to that particular department. And they are involved in, they have the mandate, and their function is the registration of new projects, site verification, project screening and scoping, and also the development of the TOR, terms of reference, which is the result of the scoping, and the EIA records. They maintain EIA public registry, the management of EIA data bank. Yes, just like the World Bank maintains their own. If you go to the World Bank info site now, you are going to see all the projects, even these are specific projects. If you go online, you are going to see the whatever document that was submitted before. If it is a construction project, okay, you see the EIA over there in the info shop. Then EIA scoping and risk assessment, review of projects, yes, they do that a lot. Coordination of review, the panel, the technical, the in-house, the public review, also the displacement of this review is also there. Then the impact mitigation and measures of approved projects, as well as the evaluation and final year reports at and levels. So the particular that division of the Federal Ministry of they have the mandate to carry out all of these functions. Yes. So there is an enforcing body. After repealing the Federal Environmental Protection Act of 1988, NESRA Act of 2007 became a major statutory regulation instrument guiding environmental matters in Nigeria. There is no confusion here, as we are going to discover later. Its vision is to ensure a cleaner and healthier environment for Nigeria. And its mission is to inspire personal and collective responsibility in building an environmentally conscious society for the achievement of sustainable development in Nigeria. The mandate is the protection and development of environment, biodiversity, conservation, and sustainable development of Nigerian natural resources in general, and environmental technology, including coordination with relevant stakeholders on matters of enforcement of environmental standards, regulations, rules, laws, policy, guidelines, and so on. The NESRA Act empowers the agency to be responsible for enforcing all environmental laws. Please take note of that. When it comes to enforcement, because you get to see that NESRA has several sectorial laws. When you are carrying out a project and you go against the laid down laws, you may not immediately see the Federal Ministry of Environment coming to which, but you will see NESRA there. NESRA, they are the enforcing body of environmental laws, their guidelines, their policy, their standard and regulation in Nigeria, as well as enforcing compliance with provision of international agreements. There are international laws. There are places that internationally they are protected, like the mangroves and the rest. So if you are carrying out your project, there are guidelines you must follow. There are international protocols, there are conventions, treaties on the environment to which Nigeria is a signatory. So the enforcement of that is done by NESRA. And once you trigger it immediately, you see them in your site immediately, and it may not be a very funny experience. So NESRA has issued since 2009 33 sectorial guidelines, and the list is building. If you look at it, national environmental guide regulations for wetland, river, so many of them. You have the ones for watershed, hilly catchment area, the one for sanitation and waste control, ozone layer protection, noise standard control, chemical, pharmaceutical, soap, detergent manufacturing industry, soil erosion and flood desertification, and drug protection of endangered species in international trade. You can see that if it is the law, this country has it in robust form. And you can go on various going coastal construction, vehicular groundwater, alien species, air quality control, all of them. The standard are the dams and reservoir, hazardous chemical, energy, and so on. So you find out that the sectorial laws are there. But most times, how about the implementation? The implementation have been one of the major problems we have in this country. And some of them have its root in corruption that is rampant in our country. And we pray that as agents of change, which IPES and the SPECI project aims at bringing out agents of change through you and I. We hope that as we begin to get into these sectors, we will insist on doing the right thing. Because of what? We now know that if the right thing is not done as concerning the environment and the social component, the way of life of the people, you're going to discover that we can going to pay the price either for now or in future. Hence the need for all this. It's not just to make life difficult. Our people have this mentality, especially when the enforcement of some of these laws come. You see people complaining that this their own too much, this one too much. It's because they lack the awareness. Okay, and the Federal Ministry of the National Orientation is it Commission Agency. They are doing their best, but still, we find out that a lot of people still don't have access to some of this information. Some people don't even know that these things they exist. Some carry out projects without knowing that there are sectorial guidelines for some of these areas that they are dabbling into. So, for you going to become a consultant and you are going into any of these areas, are going into watershed, river banks, lake and shore, are going to erosion control, you are strongly advised that get the national environmental regulation for this. Read it very well so that you don't run yourself into problem. Well, because if you trigger any of those guidelines to go against it, you are going to see NESRA there because they are the enforcers of some of these laws. So I want to thank you for your time. I believe I have not bored you. So I would like to give this time, I want to thank you for your patience and audience and give this time for you to make your contributions and also to ask questions. Like I said at the onset, for some of you that are in the sector and are practicing, if some questions come up and you have field experience to share with us, you are free to respond. So we use this period to do that. So I want to permit me to Yes, George, can we hear from you, please? Thank you.
Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for an impactful lecture.
Thank
Yesterday, I was concerned about the pure biotech company we have in Benue State. They are causing so much adverse effects on the environment and the living condition. They have a property there. That's why I'm so much concerned.
Sorry, please. Sorry, you say what biotech?
Pure biotech. There's a company on Boko Makodi
Okay,
Road.
what do they do?
The cassava production for there's this company. They collect cassava.
Yes, I know that. I know that. I just want you to educate the people here. That's why.
Yes. So they are causing toxic environment to the marine lives in the river, and then we that are living around that place. It's the smell, the sulfur coming out of there is what I cannot write home about. Now, somebody confirmed, a NESRA officer who is part of this class, that NESRA has been there and they have an EIA. If I am to take this up, let's say legally, whom am I actually facing? Is it NESRA or the company? Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. The NESRA personnel among us here, please, you may respond to that, and then I can give my view on that too. Sorry, who is the? Can I assume that Praise is the NESRA person? I'll ask you to unmute because you raised your hand when I said that. Praise? Or is it Daniel?
No, sir, I'm raising my hand up for a question.
Okay, hold on first. Hold on. Okay. All right. So I think from NESRA, you can get further direction on how to go about that. But like I said, the law is clear. The people to enforce that is NESRA. It lies legally within their purview to ensure that those practices, they are discontinued immediately. Okay. So I think from my part here, I would like to say NESRA so that we don't delay it. Maybe as others contribute to get to know more about that. You get to their office, if you feel whatever they have done there is not satisfactory or is not, you still get to the relevant authorities within the agency. We have NESRA office in Benue State here until you ensure that there is significant change in whatever is happening there. And if they don't do it, people resort to legal and you seek the advice of a lawyer and you begin to sue that company. It may amount to millions of, depends on how strong your case is. There are some lawyers that specialize in this type of thing. They get a whole lot of money. But in a situation whereby, so let me not belabor that. NESRA has the answer to that. Okay, Ajoko Philemon. Please unmute quickly. If Philemon is not ready, I'll go to. Okay.
Good morning. I am ready, sir. Yeah. Good morning, sir. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. I have a contribution and also have a question, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so much for impacting this. Sir, as EIA is, we have a problem of corruption. Sometimes it's at the ministry. Most of the proponents of projects, they induce at stakeholders, and people who are supposed to make impact, meaningful impact, at the stakeholders' consultation. You see, they do it in such a way that it favors the proponent. And at the end of the day, even when the negative impact outweigh the positive, they tend to go out with the project. And then, sir, my question is concerning the estate people. Recently, there's been surge in carrying out layouts in Benue State here, and you get to discover that the host communities are not carried along. There's no need assessment. There's no social impact carried out at those villages. And then the government just sent those people to go and carry out, lay out without doing anything, taking people's land, which is their primary source of livelihood. And then, sir, in such cases, what are we going to do? Because I am also affected. So where exactly are we going to lay our complaint to, knowing that this is going to lay the future for to insecurity? There's going to be chaos in the nearest future. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, part of why we need a stakeholder engagement. The project is supposed to come to better your life, but you can see that you even though it was developmental project that came, you're feeling bad because you were not consulted, your land was taken, and a whole lot of injustice was done to you. In some places, they go straight to litigate it. And if at all your case can be well proven in the court, the people that pay you compensation for it. Okay? So, but we would like to get input from, if you have the NESRA person is here, you can make your contribution when the time comes as concerning how to go about it. So, like I said, can be litigated. Get a good lawyer, then you can demand a whole lot. There is one, I've forgotten the name of this movie. I've forgotten. Maybe I'll get the name later. There was this pollution of water by a company. And this lady took it upon herself to get some samples, and she was able to prove that it was linked to a particular company that was carrying out a particular hazardous, that the effluent from their industry or their factory was entering the local community water. And they claimed billions. Overnight, her company became, in fact, the lawyers took it up. And they won the case because people there were falling sick, having all sort of terrible ailment as a result of those effluents from the factory. And that case was won, and they got millions. And the company was forced to compensate for the health hazard caused for the people. So instances like that are there. Please, Ogumola. Please be brief.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate your question, sir. May God bless you. And thanks to the colleagues at large. As regard the issue of the Benue State, NESRA is the best agency to tackle that. Individual can as well write to NESRA as regard the situation, because individual is part of a stakeholder to the community. So as well, if you put on your letter to the NESRA, it is mandate on them, according to the HAD that established them, to go further on the issue. And if found to be true, such an establishment is liable to be fined or even sanctioned. And again, I want to as well contribute from the aspect of oil spill, because I work with the NOSDRA, National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency. It's a sister agency to NESRA under the Federal Ministry of Environment. So we are purely on environmental spillage, cleanup, remediation, and
yes, I was in your office at Lokoja last week.
Yes, on Rufai Ahmed. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So
all right.
Any of the oil company that spilled without report to the agency within 24 hours is liable to pay at a start 10 million. After another 24 hours and fail to still report, is liable to another 10 million. So until he is being sued to the court of law. And we checked them quarterly, apart from when there's an occasional or emergency situation. Our effort includes tanker spillage to the road during accidents, or pipeline leakages and other things. So NOSDRA is purely stipulated on any environmental pollution in respect of oil spillage. But both NESRA and NOSDRA, they are like paper tiger in nature. We are praying for good solutions. Most of the challenges we are facing is funding. Could you imagine now? The oil operators, ordinarily, they are not supposed to earn more than us because we are the regulator. If you are to go to feed, to visit them, to check the activities, it is them that will book hotel, accommodation, and everything for us. And we can only check them according to the heart by notice. So, which is still a kind of a lacuna we need to correct. That, in fact, our DG have been working on it. That aspect needs to be corrected. We don't need to prepare their mind while coming. We should just visit them, since we are working with in a surveillance nature. So, but we are not being equipped by the federal government. So it's a challenge both NOSDRA and NESDRA are facing. Funding. Because when you are not funding, you don't have a ship on your own, you don't have a speedboat, you don't have an air flight you can use to carry out your activities. Even equipment are lacked. How will you carry out effective operation? So it still lies within the issue of funding and strengthening of the both agencies from the government. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. So sometimes you even begin to wonder whether government just deliberately do that thing in order for the process not to work. But we just hope that people like you and I will get into government tomorrow, and then we'll pay attention to a lot of contractors are doing rubbish and going scot-free. And these things are not enforced because the people that are supposed to even enforce it, they are not given the power, in quote, the financial power to carry out this. So it's there within our system, and we hope for better tomorrow. Julius, please. We have 4 minutes now. I'm time conscious. After this, we may have to continue later
Please, can you
in the afternoon.
Good morning, Dr. Ernest. Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation, and thank you, dear colleagues. My question is, my question is basically to the NESRIA personnel and then plus you, and then correlating the question to the Urban Planning and Development Agency, right? That's talking about the urban and regional planners. I want to know, sir, is there really an EIA? Yes, in their document, like in their modus operandi, right? Because if you check, you will see that most of these urban planners, they tend to, you understand, want to give project that has to do with demarcation of land to their users. You understand, whether they're industrial, whether they're for market or etc. But you get to understand that they tend to allow some certain things to happen, like putting forth, allowing an industry to be cited, you understand, where settlement is close. And which is a bit, how will I put it? It's not even a bit, which is adversely affecting the population. So at times, when I pass through such communities, seeing industries sited closer to settlement, it gets to disturb me, and I'll be like, was there no EIA? And even the urban and regional planners that allow this siting of this industry here, do they not take the EIA for the proximity of settlement and that of companies? So, and again, I would like also to know if there is whether they conduct EIA for poultry houses, like where they rear chickens, because chicken dungs, we know that they harbor methane gas, and methane gas are very risky to human health, right? So I want to know, you see people siting poultry closer to settlement. Is there an EIA conducted for such kind of persons? That's my question, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think before others will speak on that, it still boils down to the corruption in the system. The first question lies. Okay.
Hello?
Do you know that in town planning laws and the rest, when it has to do with siting of even worship places, churches, okay, EIA is very important. I mean, like, you need to follow the guidelines. You cannot have even something like a gas plant. Sorry, is it Julius? Okay. Even if it is a gas plant, a petroleum station, you don't sandwich it in between a residential building. There are laws. Somebody is unmuted and you're this person, please. So, but the enforcement those sectorial guidelines are there. It was clearly written there if you look at the town planning guidelines. But I want to assure you that sometimes when buildings are marked for demolition, you see that after a week or two, construction will still continue in that same building, in that same site. What happened? Money have exchanged hands, and then something that was marked for demolition because of its inappropriateness is not in the original plan. It's still continuing there. So those things happen in our country. And then when you talk about poultry, like I told you, poultry, even worship places, okay, especially when you put horn speaker outside some certain area, densely populated area, people are sleeping, and then you put horn speaker outside. Actually, in a civilized environment, is considered as noise pollution. When your poultry this thing is emitting those terrible smell and other things in a residential is inappropriate. There are places that are earmarked for those activities. So if you see the guideline is there, it's just the enforcement that has been the problem. So Agada Shaibu rather. Quickly, I'll take that and possibly one more, and then we take the rest during the afternoon session.
That's all right.
Shaibu.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Thank you. Be very brief, please.
Okay. But can you hear me? All right.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, good. I want to thank you very much, Doc, for this insightful lecture. I wanted to respond to the colleague, the student that asked question regarding the effluent discharge from the pure biotech and the natural responsibility, and a number of other questions around that. So then on that effluent discharge, yes, NESRA is aware of effluent discharge from pure biotech and has acted to it for some months ago. You remember some months ago, NESRA closed down the company for that same reasons. The company was discharging untreated effluent discharge, and they were directed to construct an ETP for the company, which the company says the ETP was in progress at that time. But NESRA decided to close it down because it was not into use, it was not put into use. So we monitored the completion of that ETP, and I am surprised that somebody is complaining now that there's still a discharge, untreated discharge again. But if that person is sure, he can put up a complaint to NESRA and bring some evidence that truly this thing is still being discharged to the environment and to the water body, and appropriate actions will be taken on that regard. Then somebody asked, somebody also talked something about Musa spoke about, asked question about the poultry and if the poultry farm should have EIA. EIA, yes. Poultry farm, there are categories for a company to carry out an environmental impact assessment. So if it is not just the fact that the person is a poultry farm, if the poultry farm is big enough to carry out such an assessment, it will do. But most of the poultry farm we have around the Benue State here, they conduct what we call EMP, environmental impact assessment, is site-specific assessment, and that is what NESRAP often permit them to do, and with our close monitoring. But if a facility, a poultry farm is big and supposed to, it's within the size to carry out an EIA, it will do. But most of the poultry farms carry out EMP, environmental management plan.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Please, my brother, the person that asked that question about the biotech plan, please, you can link up with Agada. You can provide further information on how to go about it. Thank you very much for that insight. Then, please, Chile, I'll take you as the last. The rest, please, the afternoon session, we have gone deep into this. Chile, please, yes. Shiri Serumumba, quickly make your point.
Okay. Hello.
Yes, we are hearing you. Yes.
Okay, I wanted to respond to the person that asked the question concerning, but I think Gada has done.
All right. Thank you so much. Abeda, please, can you say something briefly?
To that, so I wouldn't say this.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Abeda, let me try and see.
Good morning, everybody.
Yes.
I just want to respond to the person that made a comment concerning survey and survey management, realtors, and about estate survey. Yes. So I want the person to understand that no survey takes place without stakeholders' engagement.
Okay.
Yeah, there's always a stakeholder engagement done, and if there is any issue, there is a department in the Ministry of Lands for dispute resolutions that the person can always go to. And if for further carefulness, the person can also go to the court for a litigation.
Okay.
And then
are you in one of the? Are you a surveyor?
Oh, okay. No, I'm a rater.
Okay. Can he link up with you and possibly get further clarification?
Yes, of course, he can.
Okay.
And then
all right.
concerning the issue of someone made a concern about EIA for surveyors. Yes, there's an EIA. There's an EIA, but it has to take into consideration that the EIA for surveyors is quite different from that of a company or any other business venture one may want to go into. So there's an EIA set up for that.
All right, that's great. That's great. Thank you so much. Comfort, I think I can thank you. Oban. Quickly.
Good morning, sir.
Good
Thank
morning.
you so much for the wonderful lectures. Okay, mine is question, sir.
Okay, quickly.
When you come in food and beverage industry, is EIA applicable to food and beverage industry? And also, the work of NAFDAC, is it enough in food and beverage industry, or should NESERAT also be included?
Okay, when you are going to carry out construction, okay, of the food and beverage, this is and it involves significant impact on the environment and the social well-being of the people that are going to be beneficiaries of that project or the local area there. Of course, if it's going to have a significant impact, why not you carry out an EIA? Okay, but just as we state, if the project is just a nutrition project, something like school feeding and the rest, you may not need an EIA. If you are going to site a major factory or a major building, okay, part of the, let me tell you, even when the SPECI project under which we are having this, they having the institute, the IPES, Okay. When it came to being, we needed a building that we'll call our own, the IPES building. At some point, okay, it became expedient that the university will have to provide a building for that, because going through the procurement process and also setting up a complete building under this project, it requires a robust AIA that will go through series of review before you can set up a building for IPES. So the alternative we have was to also they use an already established building by the university. So if it involves a lot of construction and significant impact on the environment, EIA is mandatory. So please, whatever concerns you have and questions, we'll take them briefly in the afternoon session before we start the afternoon session.
Yes.
So I'll see you then, please. Class rep, is there any information for the class before we sign off?
Rochas, where are you? Huh?
Gada, please mute. Class rep, usually you can't sign off before everybody. Class rep, you make the last statement and then we close. If you are not making any comment, we may have to sign off now. Class rep?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Sir.
Okay. All right, we'll meet in the afternoon.
All right, thank you very much, sir. It was an incredible time with you.
All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. You can also end the meeting.
Okay, thank you. I thank you all for your patience, for your contribution. See you in the afternoon. God bless you all. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Amen. Amen. You can also end the meeting for us, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.